Welcome to BRIANTECH. Hey there, I'm Brian Kishew, and I'm super excited to have you join me on this Python adventure. Whether you are completely new to programming or just looking to level up your skills, you are in the right place. On this channel, we are going to start from the very basics and work our way all the way up to advanced Python concepts. So just think of it as your personal programming bootcamp without boring lessons. Yeah, I will actually break things down into easy to understand lessons with lots of hands-on coding tips and tricks on how to maneuver when it comes to Python. I will go through writing fast, like putting out your first program, which is a hello world, and also from there we shall build awesome projects till the end. So before we begin, one thing you need to understand, what is programming is just the process of creating instructions that a computer can follow to specific tasks. And today actually we are going to have Python installed in our system. So for us to have Python, we need to visit python.org website that is on our browser. Then after having our Python, we need actually to have an IDE. And since we are just beginners, since this is purely for beginners, I shall guide you on how to install Jupyter Notebook, which will guide us, which will act as an IDE, that is an integrated development environment. We also have other IDEs like VS Code, ByteJam, Sublime Text, and others. So right away, let's go to our browser here. So in our browser, we shall simply type python.org and hit enter. So here, since I'm using Windows, you'll just come on your downloads. Then on your downloads, you make sure you select Python 3.114. As per now, this is the latest Python version we have now. So let's download it. So actually, when you see up here on our right side, top side, it is downloading. Actually, it has shown us that it is already downloaded. So for you to find it, it is in your downloads folder. So let's straight away install it. So just press it. So here, make sure you use admin privileges when installing. So just use this one, and also add python.exe to path. So make sure you select these two checkboxes. Then let's now install now. Yes, our installation is successful. You see here, setup was successful. So let's now close. So shall move out here. Make sure you type cmd to check whether our Python has installed successful. So just type cmd, and here just type python to check the version, space hyphen version, then press enter. So on our cmd, we see that our Python has successfully installed, since it is showing us that we have 3.14 version of Python. So right away, we want now to install Jupyter Notebook. So for us to install Jupyter Notebook, we use this command, that is pip install notebook. Install notebook, then press enter. Yeah, the installation is successful, as we see right now. So let's close our CMD, and since we are going to have our first lesson, let's create a folder where we shall put in our code. So come to on your desktop and select new, create a new folder, just say Python programming, and hit enter. So after creating the folder, so let's now move inside the folder. So make sure you click up here to highlight blue. In that, for us now we want to access our IDE, that is Jupyter Notebook. Normally Jupyter Notebook, it's really you code your your program in the browser. It really opens in the browser. So just type Jupyter space notebook, then press enter. So you see it is actually opening. When you see this CMD, yeah, it has actually opened. So for us now to create a file, you come here on new. So make sure you select Python 3, this first option. It will actually open a new tab. So on a new tab, we see our file. It has been named as untitled. So we want to rename it. So just click here and let's say lesson 1, lesson _1 _ introduction. So press enter. So you see our file name has actually changed from untitled to lesson 1 introduction. You see here and up here. So someone might be asking themselves, how can we write our first code? It is really simple when it comes to Python. You can just come here and type print. So inside the parentheses, just enter the 2 quotation marks and write hello world, hello space world. Okay, so for us to run this code, we see up here we have something like an arrow, the one that I'm pointing here, where it's actually down the run. So it is telling us that run this cell or use advanced shift and enter. So let's just click this arrow. Wow, our first program has actually been created, and it has actually executed the word hello world. Actually, you can just play around. You can actually do some mathematical functions, basic mathematical function, like let's say print. Let's say 30 plus 24. Let's try and run. Yeah, it has actually executed 54. So Python is actually easy when it comes to programming compared to other languages. So in our let's go back to reference our notes a bit here. Let's see some basic features of Python before we dive into programming. So Python is actually simple and readable syntax. It is actually easy to learn and understand. We have seen how to execute code. Interpreted language, that is, it really means runs code line by line without compilation. Also, it supports object-oriented, that is things like classes and objects, and it is actually dynamically typed, there is no need to declare variables, variable types. So like in other languages, you will say if it is an integer, you have to start with int x is equal to 20. But in Python, you don't need to specify the variable type. You just say x is equal to 20. Once Python says 20, it has actually known that this is an integer. And also it has extensive standard libraries with many built-in modules. Also, it is a cross-platform. It works on Windows, Linux, and Mac OS. Then let's see some of the advantages of Python. It is easy for beginners, as we have seen, to print the hello world and doing some basic mathematics. Also, it supports a larger community. Then it is really flexible and versatile when it comes to web development, and the current wave right now, it is artificial intelligence. AI it is actually run on Python. This is the core language when it comes to artificial intelligence. So if you want to dive into AI, this is the best way for you to start learning. Then when it comes to data science, also it is highly used compared to other languages. Then it supports automation. Then another thing, it is actually faster when it comes to development, since it has extensive libraries and frameworks that have already been built on your behalf. Then it supports a huge number of libraries and frameworks. Frameworks like Django for web development and others. So let's go back to our code and start writing how to write a variable. So when it comes to variable, is like it acts like a container that stores value. For example, for you to have a variable, so we shall actually create some notes before we dive in. So let's say let's have a documentation. Let's say variables. So you come here and select Markdown. So Markdown, it really helps us to write documentations. So then hit enter. So in our first lecture, we are going to discuss about what are variables. Variables are simply containers that hold values. Let's say containers that hold values. So let's come here and select Markdown and run. So let's say we want to print let's say someone's name. So for us to print someone's name, we shall need the first thing we shall need what we call a variable. So let's say first underscore name is equal to sign. It really means it assigns a value equal, then double quotation. Let's enter like a name like mine, Brian. So after now writing the name Brian, we want now to execute it. So for us to execute this name, we need what we call a print function. So just say print. Then we call our variable, which is first name. Just copy and come inside the bracket and paste. So let's try and run and see. Yeah, you have seen here, we have actually executed the name Brian. Like we can have as many variables as we can. Let's say let's say last underscore name is equal to, let's say Kaiga, and let's say age is equal to let's say 27. Let's say gender is equal to male. So, and let's say if I'm married or not, let's say marital status, marital underscore status is equal to false. Okay, someone might be asking themselves, why is it that false? I have not put it under double quotation marks, and it really looks like a string. This is actually what we call Boolean values. So let's execute these variables we see. So we shall just come here and say print, then we call our last name, last underscore name, comma, then we say age, comma, then we say gender, comma, then we say marital underscore status. Let's try and run them. Yeah, we have seen this is now the work of variables. Like we have seen here, our variable has stored our value, which is Kaiga, last name. The variable age has stored the value 27, gender male, marital status false. So this is actually simply the work of variables. I think you have come across such a things when it comes to filling forms, like on a website or somewhere. So the things that are the data that you normally enter, it is being captured by a variable. Okay, let's say you want to take input from a user. Let's say take inputs from a user. So we want now to document this one, markdown and run. So to take input from the user, we shall just simply use the input function, like let's say first underscore name is equal to, we shall pass in input. So by default, Python, it normally takes input as a string. So let's say age, let's say my age, variable called my underscore age is equal to, so since Python by default the input function takes values as strings, so we need now to convert them. So we say int, then we say input. So let's guide someone, like here you might enter placeholder, say enter your name, enter your first name, so here we can say enter your age. So let's try and run and see. Yes, the first placeholder has told us enter your first name. Let me say Kelvin, then press enter. So age, let me say 25 or 26, then enter. So we have seen here, actually Python has executed the values, which is Kelvin 20, and the age is 26. So this is actually the work of variables. Then another thing, let's look at rules that guide us when it comes to giving out names for variables. Let's say rules in naming variables. So the first rule is actually, we always say use meaningful names. Like for example, like first name, once you tell someone first name, it is something that someone understand that whatever you want from the user, it is the name. But if you say X is equal to, like someone will not understand, or Y. And another thing is that you can start with an underscore. You can start with an underscore. For example, you can say first underscore name. This, when it comes to Python, underscore first name, it is something that is acceptable. Then another thing, you are not allowed to start. You are not allowed to start with a number. Not allowed. To start as a variable name. So for example, let's say you cannot say two names. The reason, Python will give you an error because 2 is an integer. It is something that is known by the system. So another thing, keywords are not allowed. Keywords cannot be used as variable names. Variable names. So for example, keywords like, let's say int, float, in, as, with, etc. These are terms that these are keywords known by Python, so we are not allowed to use them as variable names. We normally refer them as reserved words. So once you are able to know these rules, your coding knowledge will actually be fine. So let's name them as markdowns. Okay, so this is what we call documentation. Okay, so let's look at another thing called naming convention. that is naming convention. So naming convention, we have four types of naming convention. The first one is actually called a Pascal casing. We call Pascal casing. So Pascal casing. So let's make it as markdown. So under Pascal casing, a word will always start with an uppercase, like let's say profile. A profile name is equal to, let's say, Mercy. And mostly this thing, we normally use it when it comes to naming classes. We use it to name classes. When we shall reach on object oriented, that is when we shall see how Pascal is being used. So let's make it as a markdown. So another thing, we have what we call camel casing. Test number 2. Have camel casing. Camel casing simply means we start with a lowercase, then the following word will start with an uppercase later. For example, let's say my first name is equal to, let's say, Brian. So this is how we normally use the camel casing. Like you see the the first word, my m, is a lowercase. And another naming convention is what we call snake casing. So under snake casing, we use what we call an underscore. Okay, let's say first underscore name, or let's say last underscore name. So in this case, we normally use it to assign variables and functions. Say this one, we use it to assign variables and functions. So let's make it as a markdown. Okay. So once we are here, we are actually done with rules concerning variables. Like I've just seen that variables are containers that hold values. Okay, they take. So another thing, you have seen how to take inputs from a user, then rules in naming variables, then naming convention. So another thing, let's go and explore on data types in Python. So let's come here. This is number 2, data types. Okay, so data types, these are just simply values that we give to variables. So under data types, we have so many data types. We have around 8 types of data types in Python. So the first one we have actually numbers. Under numbers we have integers, we have float, we have complex numbers. Then we have text. So under text we have strings. We have string. Also we have character. So then we have booleans. So under booleans we have true and false. True and false. So we also have sets. So we also have tuples. We also have lists. We also have dictionaries. These are key value pairs dictionaries. We have null values, and so on. We also have binary values, binary data types, binary values, and etc. So once we have known this one, we are actually going to use them in our program. So don't worry, this is just the beginning. So let's document them using the markdown command and run. Sorry, let's make them at least to look neat. We want to make them in a bullet form. So we use the hyphen, then space, hyphen, then space. So let's run. Yeah, so it actually looks neat. Yeah, so far we have seen Python data types. So let's have an example of numbers. Like let's say we are starting with integers. So in Python we also have what we call comments. Like for example, a single line comments, we normally use a hash. This is what we call single line comment. Single line comment. You have seen, you can run. So for a multi-line comment, we normally use a triple quotation marks. Like let's say this is another line, a multi-line comment. So once you see, like, I'll be using comments in this manner, don't worry. Okay, I've seen an error. So here, yeah. So actually it is it a single quotation or what? I'm not sure though. Let me run. Okay, for a case, let me just, yeah, you can either use a double quotation or single quotation. So this is how we normally deal with comments. So we are actually to look at numbers. So these are, so let's start with integers. So let's say num1, let's say, or num1 is equal to 30. Let's say num2 is equal to 40. So we want to get the total. Let's say total is equal to num1 plus num2. So let's try and print them. Let's try and print them. Let's print total. Let's run. Yeah, we have seen it has actually executed a whole number. This is an integer. So let's confirm whether it is an integer or not. So we normally use the type function, type, then we pass in total. So we just want to confirm whether it is an integer or not. Yeah, you have seen here it has told us this is an int. Same to float numbers are actually point numbers, float numbers. So let's say price is equal to 80.99. Let's say weight is equal to, let's say, 20.5. So let's now try and get the final results. Let's say results is equal to price times weight. Price times weight. Weight. So let's try and print the results we see. So let's pass in here results and see. Then after so we see the results, it is a float. Let's confirm whether it is a float or not. So you just simply use the type function, type, and pass in results variable. Yeah, we have seen it has told us this is a result. So let's actually also check on booleans. Let's say booleans. These are just true or false values. For example, you can say male, a variable, say male, are you a male, and say if it is true, say marital status, marital underscore status is equal to, are you married, false. So let's try and execute them. Say print. Say print. Want to execute mail, comma, then marital underscore status. Let's try and run and see. Yeah, it has seen. So these are booleans. Booleans are just true or false values. Yeah, so as time goes by, we shall actually check other data types. So also let's actually look at strings. Look at strings. Let's document this value. Strings are simply just a set of text, or it's just a set of characters. You can say a string is just a set of characters that is meaningful, e.g. like let's say the word, like let's say price, it is just a string that is meaningful. Then we input strings in a single or double quotation or double quotation marks, e.g. So for example, like let's say this is a laptop. So whenever you see something in double or single quotation, okay, like let's say computer, you just know this is a string. Okay, so let's document it here. Yeah, so these are some of the basic rules when it comes to a string. So like let's now write a program to execute a string. We had earlier actually seen how to execute a string using the hello world code earlier, but let's give another example. Like let's say last underscore name is equal to, let's say Kamau. So Kamau here, it is just simply a string. So this is the variable, last name is the variable, then Kamau is the value of the type string. So let's try and print it. Let's print last name and run this code. Yeah, actually it has actually printed Kamau. So Kamau is just a string of characters. So we can actually check the type. Just simply use the type function, type. Then we pass in our variable, that is last underscore name. You see, str a string. It has told us that this is a string. So another thing we want to look is what we call indexing of strings. Indexing Indexing of strings. So one key thing you should always remember that indexing starts at 0. Indexing always starts at 0. So e.g., let's say you have items of a list. So we have an title list. So let's say we have things like apple. We have things like banana. You have something like orange. So in our list, the first value, which is an apple, it is at index 0. So this one, it is at index 0, banana index 1, orange index 2, like that. So we shall actually look more into indexing as we go by. So let's document this one and so on. So let's now see how indexing works in a string. So let's say my string, let's have a variable called my underscore string is equal to, let's say, hello Brian. So we want actually to check the first character, which is like character h, it is at which index. So let's say first character, first underscore char is equal to, so we pass in our string. So this one, let's copy and paste here, and we use the angle brackets. This one, we want to know which character is at index 0. So after that, we are now to execute, like say print let's have a guiding string. Say this is my okay, let's say this is my first my first character. So after here, let's now pass in this variable first character. So let's try and run this code. Yeah, you have seen this is my first character, which is h. It is at index 0, since we have said indexing always starts at 0. So once you understand the concept, you are good to go. We can as well check what we call, so this one is under indexing called positive indexing. Positive indexing always start at 0. So let's look at negative indexing. So negative indexing will always start from right to left, and it always starts at -1. Let's copy our string here and paste it here. So let's say you can say last underscore character is equal to my string. So this one, let's copy and paste it here, and use this one, and we can say -1. Let's try and print to see the results. So let's pass in last underscore character. Yeah, so we have seen under negative indexing, it always starts at -1. So from right to left. So let's say we want to execute like the word Brian. This is -1, -2, 3, 4, 5. So let's execute the word Brian using negative indexing. So we shall simply, let's copy this code here, and inside the square brackets we shall just simply say -6 full colon up to -1. So let's try and print and see the results. So print last underscore character. Yeah. So we have seen it has actually, though it has omitted n, for us to execute the whole word we don't need 1. So let's run it again. Yeah, it has actually executed Brian. So this is what we call negative indexing. It is like the reverse. You are reversing your string. Okay, so another thing, we are going to look at something called converting and casting data types. We had actually seen it earlier, but let's go into details a bit. Converting and casting data types. So let's document this one. Okay, so like let's say you have been a user has actually given their data to you. So at times we want them to convert them into certain data type, like let's say by default Python takes everything using the input function. It normally takes it as a string. Like let's say age is equal to, we know by default age it is an integer since it is a number. So the first thing we need to convert the input to integer. So we say int full colon. So inside here we shall say input. Let's guide the user and say enter your age. Let's try and print it. Let's print it. Say age. You see, so here the input is actually telling us to enter age, like let's say 30, and press enter. So we have seen here that it has actually seen, I have seen it as age 30. So by default we are doing what we call converting, like Python by default it takes everything as a string, so but we don't need to execute age as a string, we need to execute it as an integer. So this is when we call converting and casting. We need to convert one data type to another data type. So like let's say we have a float, like let's say my weight is equal to, let's say 65.89, but we don't want this one to be in a float, so we shall do what we call type conversion. So let's first print it and see which type it is first. Say print, let's see print, pass in the function type, and now we want to say my underscore weight. We want to see which type, so then after that we want now to convert it. So let's say convert to integer, convert to integer. So we shall just simply say print, we pass in the function integer to integer, then we say my underscore weight so we can confirm whether it has actually converted to an integer or not. So we say print, let's say type my underscore weight let's see this code. So it is actually telling us 65, the first one, type class weight. Let me see here, there is an issue. Let me confirm. Where there is issue. Yeah, I have seen where the issue comes in. We need to have another variable that actually will hold. So let's say my underscore int is equal to, need to do what we call type conversion at the top there. So we shall cast this one, say pass it here. So here we shall pass in my underscore int. So this one we say my underscore int. Let's see the results. Yeah, so the first one, it has shown us that 65 point. This one is a float, so let's actually execute it here first. My underscore weight, comma. So So you have seen 65.89, it is under class float. So after seeing it here, so we are now to have actually here we have converted this to an integer. So we have used the int function. So we have printed it, then we have checked the class. So here the integer is 65, it has omitted 0.89. It has shown us that this is an int. So this is how we normally do what we call type conversion and casting. So another thing we are going to look at string methods. I'm going to look at string methods. This should be number 4 if I'm not wrong. So we document it using the markdown. Okay, so after documenting it, we let's say how we can replicate or multiply a string. Let's say replicate or multiply a string. So let's say let's have a variable called my underscore string, equate it like, let's say Python. So for us to have replication, we normally use the multiplication sign, which is a star or asterisk. Let's say times 10. Let's try and execute it. Print. Let's pass in my underscore string. I will see the results. Yeah, we have seen here that Python has actually regenerated 10 times. So this is how we normally do string replication using the multiplication sign. We had actually earlier seen how to do what we call slicing and indexing. Indexing, like seeing how we can give an index a string, and also how we can slice, like showing part of a string. So the next thing we are going to look at how to format a string. Say hashtag string formatting. So let's document using the markdown command. So string formatting. So we can actually format a string in 3 ways. We can either use concatenation, you can use format method, or f-string. So let's say we can use concatenation. Let's say we can use a format method. So we can use another thing that we call the f-string format. So let's document them. Okay, so let's have the code example how these things normally work. So let's start with the concatenation. Let's see how string concatenation normally work. Concatenation. So concatenation, we can say, let's say first name, first underscore name is equal to let's say William. Let's say, let's say it's last underscore name is equal to Smith. So we want to use the concatenation method. So let's say concatenation method, let's say full names, full name is equal to first underscore name. We normally use plus sign to concatenate, plus last underscore name. Then we want now to print the results. Print, pass in the full name, full underscore name, and see the results. Yeah. So another thing, we can actually add spaces. Can also say plus, then we enter here the space. So let's try and see. So I don't know why it is not running. Yeah, it has actually inputted the space. Will Smith. So this is how we normally use concatenation. So let's see how the format methods normally being used when it comes to string. Let's say format method. The format method. So let's say growth rate. Let's have a variable called growth underscore rate is equal to let's say 2.5, let's say 4.5, and what else? Let's say forest region is equal to Mau. Forest underscore region is equal to Mau. So we want to see how format string is normally used when it comes to execution. Let's say print what can we say? Like let's say the annual growth. The annual growth rate of trees in the annual growth rate of trees in, we shall put here curly braces in forest is then we pass in the curly braces, percentage. So we want to insert our values in our string here. So this is now when we shall use the format string. Like curly braces will take the value that we shall pass first in this first curly braces. This one we'll put it here, then the another variable will be inserted here. So let's see how it is being used. So we normally say dot format dot format dot format. Let's pass in forest underscore region variable, forest underscore region variable, then comma, then we have growth underscore rate. So once we run our code will actually say the annual growth rate of trees in Mau forest is 4.5%. So this variable here will be passed here and will execute the word Mau. So then growth rate will be passed inside this curly braces. So let's run and see how our code work. Yeah, so we see the annual growth rate of trees in Mau. So we see we had actually put here our curly braces is 4.5%. So this is how we normally use the format method. So let's look how we normally use the f string, method. So under the f string method, we can say like let's say a student has marks, let's say is equal to 70. Then we say a student name, like let's say student underscore name is equal to, let's say, Mercy. So we want to see how the f string is normally used when it comes to Python. So we normally use, so we just come here and say print. So we normally start with the letter F, then we enter quotation marks. So the reason why we start with the f string is that we want to pass in our variables in a printed string. Like let's say let's pass in our student name. So we normally say use curly braces. So let's say student, let's just copy this one and we paste it here. Let's say student name space let's say got let's pass in here and say marks. We are calling the the marks variable. Then we say in, let's say, mathematics, let's say 20 marks in mathematics. So let's try and see the results. Yeah, we have seen here Mercy got 70 marks in mathematics. So this is how we normally use the f string for us to incorporate in our variables in a string. So the f string, then we use the curly braces, we pass in our variable. Like for example, in our case, our variable is student name and marks. So this is how we normally use the three methods of string formatting in Python. So let's look at another aspect called I think number 5, if I'm not wrong. Let's look at building methods of strings. Let's say building methods of strings in Python. So let's document it by using the markdown command and run. So strings actually have some built-in methods that can transform the string either from an uppercase to a lowercase or a lowercase to a string, or we can strip some spaces, or we can replace, and other methods. So let's say we want to transform a string from a lowercase to an uppercase. Like let's say let's start with uppercase. Let's say original string, original str is equal to, let's use lowercase. Let's say hello world, comma, I'm learning Python. I'm learning Python. So we want to transform this string to an uppercase. So let's say new string, new underscore str. New string means this is a variable that will hold our values. Then we say original string, just copy and paste it here, dot, we use the upper method, dot upper. So after passing here, we want now to see the results. So let's say print new underscore str. Yeah, we have seen it has actually transformed to an uppercase. So let's look at another scenario of a lowercase. So let's just copy this code and paste it here, and let's change. Okay, let's just copy this execution here and paste it here. So here we shall just change to lower. So like let's say under lowercase, like let's say our original string has hello world, I'm learning Python. Or like let's say I'm learning new language. So we see our string here, it is in capital letters or uppercase, if you don't mind. So let's run this code and see the results. Yeah, we have seen our results has actually transformed to lowercase. Okay, So we can also let's say we can remove some spaces in our string. Like let's say you are getting an email from a user. Let's say my underscore email is equal to, let's say, input let's say enter your email. And we say we are now to print my email, my underscore email. Like let's say here we have input some space and say, let's say at test, sorry, it is test at gmail.com. So I don't know why it is not executing. So let's just say Gmail. Okay, or let's have another example. Like let's say our string has spaces. Like let's say a test at gmail.com. So we are now to remove these unnecessary spaces. So we shall just say trimmed. Let's say have a variable called trimmed strip is equal to, say, my underscore email dot. So we normally use the strip method dot strip to remove these unnecessary spaces. Okay, so let's try and print the results. Let's pass in this one. Let's see now the results. Yeah, we have seen that actually the strip method has actually removed these spaces. Someone might doubt. Let me print the original text first. Say print. Let me pass in my email and see the difference. Just now run again. We see the original text has actually spaces. That is space then test at gmail.com, but after we have trimmed, so this is the second execution, we had to remove those spaces and say test at gmail.com. Actually this marks our end of string method. Thank you, and I'm waiting you in my next lessons. Continue subscribing, liking, sharing, and also commenting. Okay, thank you.